Hi there. Welcome to EB Education Consult. Yesterday, I had interaction with someone who wants to study abroad, and for this reason, I decided to share this information with the general public. We were interacting about study abroad opportunities, and I made few suggestions regarding universities in Europe and specific countries which might interest him. In the end, he told me that actually he doesn't fancy Europe, but rather USA or somewhere in the Northern America. And this led me to the opportunity to educate him about the other factors that he might not have considered. I know and I understand that sometimes people coming from predominantly English-speaking countries, let's say the Anglophone countries, would like to educate themselves or pursue further education in predominantly English-speaking countries like the US, the UK, the Australia, Canada, New Zealand, etc. Probably because it's easy in terms of the language barrier. However, there are multiple factors that one must consider in choosing study destination. And here are the prevailing ones that I want to share with you. I will compare Europe and then USA and maybe UK. I would take UK out of Europe because, I would say European Union or maybe something like that, and then UK, because UK has some characteristics that are not common to all other European countries. The number one is to consider the affordability of the studies. Generally, schools in the Northern America, I would say Canada and United States of America, are relatively expensive compared to their European counterparts. For example, you might get a master's in business administration in an European country costing a tuition fee of below 3,000 to maximum 5,000 euros. On the contrary, a United States school or university will cost not less than 14,000 USD. Recently, I chanced on a program, master's program in global health in Switzerland, and this cost approximately 500 euros per semester, which means for a year you are paying something around 1,000 euros, which is very, very, very extremely affordable. Similar program in global health masters in the United States is costing not less than 15,000 USD, depending on which university and how many credit courses you will need to complete in a year. So the affordability, mostly Europe, is quite affordable compared to United States of America. The second one I would want to talk about is credential evaluation. Most universities in Canada and USA require you to go through a process called credential evaluation with a recognized institution that performs this. What this means is that if you have studied outside the United States of America, in order to get an idea how your qualifications compare with their system, you need to go through this process to standardize your transcripts and certificates to match theirs. So based on that, they can evaluate you for admission. Whilst not all universities in the United States of America and Canada requires this, most of them and specific programs require this. So for example, if you're interested in studying public health in Johns Hopkins University in the United States of America, you are required to do this. If you want to study tropical medicine in Tulane and you are a foreign student, you are required to go through these processes. Whilst this process can be time consuming, it is also financially draining, or because for the standard approach, every degree will cost you somewhere 225 USD to do this credential evaluation. So imagine you have two of degrees to evaluate. That is about 450. And if you have 3 degrees to evaluate, that is somewhere around 700. And this could probably get you pay a year tuition in a particular course in Europe. So think about it. This is not a requirement in Europe, and even in UK, you don't need to go through this credentials evaluation. So that is something you have to consider if you are thinking of whether to choose United States of America or whether to choose Europe. There is the search for supervisor. In some universities in Canada, you are required to get a supervisor prior to your application, even for master's studies. This can be strenuous. You can write to several supervisors and you may not get feedback, which means you will not be able to put in application unless you get. And it's also the same for most PhD studies. Whilst this PhD applies to some European universities, generally, masters, you do not need to get prior supervisor's consent for application. And even in Europe, in several universities, once you apply for your PhD, they will align you with a potential supervisor. So that doesn't become a requirement, a prior requirement or a prerequisite to starting an application process. Of course, in the United States, there are also several universities that will not uh, request a supervisor's consent beforehand, but some specific labs, some specific courses will require that. So before you decide, make sure that this is not something that will prevent you from applying to school or university in the United States of America, Canada, or in any university in Europe. The third, oh, sorry, the fourth point I would want to bring to your notice is the recommendation requirement. Mostly United States universities are requesting for 3 uh, referees during your application. The least they will go for is 2. Um, in Europe, there are universities that will not even require recommendation letters for your application. Even some of them do not require you to submit prior transcript and stuff. You do the application, provide your education history and everything. Some of them have very minimal interview or entrance exams requirement. You pass and then you are admitted, and later you submit your your documents. So it is important to note this difference. Here in Europe, some also require maximum of 2, others will require 1, and like I've said, some require none. So if you think finding recommendation or finding referees to write about you will be challenging, especially for those who have left school for quite a long time. And one thing these people consider about referee's response is the affiliations of the referee, and usually they detect that through the email address of the referees you will provide. In Ghana, most people are even providing referees with Gmails and stuff, and it casts some doubt on the authenticity or the originality of such referees. So it's important to note that a reference letter can be a big deal in applications in the United States. And so we should, not in order to not limit yourself, you must consider options where the requirement for referees are not too stringent or are quite relaxed, so that you can easily navigate through. Again, I would want to point out about point 5, which is the nature of the documents you are supposed to submit. Several universities in Canada and USA require you to send the original copies right from the academic institution that you attended to them. and you may not have any chance to upload scanned copies during the application process. Few universities accept the scanned copies for initial admission decision, and then later you can send the official. But in Europe, almost all of them will allow you to upload scanned versions of the documents you have, and then later you may be required to present the officials, or in some cases all they need is the scanned copies for decision. And sometimes you have to also do what they call super legalization or nostrification of your documents in Europe. I don't think this is a requirement in US or Canada. Probably they are going with the credentials evaluation. English proficiency. Top universities in the Northern America usually are requesting for English proficiency. Some do exempt Anglophone countries from Africa, some Anglophone countries from Africa. However, some do not waive this requirement for a lot of countries in Africa, irrespective of you having been instructed in English during your previous post-secondary studies. So it is very, very important to note the difference. Here in Europe, many universities, of course, are not English-speaking countries, with the exception of UK. They will consider somebody coming from Ghana, Nigeria, who have had bachelor studies in English as being proficient in English, and so you will not be required to write this English language proficiency test, especially TOEFL and then IELTS. In the USA, even some universities like Stanford are requesting specifically for TOEFL. They don't even accept IELTS. So you can imagine how strict that requirement will be. And this requirement alone can impede your success in competing for study abroad in the USA. And whilst it might even not be an issue if you consider the European route. So kindly take note of this. Also, some aptitude tests are required, like the GRE, the graduate record exams, the GMAT, the MCAT for medical students in the United States, and the SAT for, I think, predominantly business students. These are not prerequisites for studying in most European countries and most European courses, except few universities that probably align with American system who will request for such information. So it's very good to take note of all this before doing so. The next point I want to talk about is competition and the popularity. In Europe, there are several countries, some of which are not so popular, and as such, not many people consider them as desired destination. Everybody wants to go to USA, and sometimes these countries have a quota to provide every year, and when they meet their quota, you will not know, but you will apply and then you will not get a visa. So it is worthy of note to know about this, even if you are going to be very successful with your application. Getting visas to some of the popular destinations, Canada, United States of America, is not very easy. So whilst probably considering Czech Republic, Italy, Lithuania, etc., might give you equal opportunity and easy access to visa to go and study your master's or whichever program you intend to study there. And also scholarships. I think, like I said, there are several countries in Europe. There are government scholarships for specific countries. There are subject-specific scholarships in Europe. Opportunity to even work in Europe, in some European country, full-time basis is higher compared to US. You have very restricted access to work. You have restricted access to scholarships, and so when you are on one hand, when you are looking for scholarship, this is something you should consider: the competitiveness. How rich is your CV, your academic background to put you at an advantage in a competitive US-Canada environment. And in Canada and US, not very much scholarship are on the open. Usually, yes, PhDs, if you find a lab where they need student assistantship or where the STEM programs are sponsored, you will be fortunate to enroll with tuition waiver and with some stipends to sustain your living expenses. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to attract scholarships in the US. While there are plethora of scholarships available in Europe that you can explore to your advantage. And the other aspect is, even if you're not getting a full scholarship in Europe, in some countries, you have the opportunity to work full time as long as you can combine that with your academic requirement or your studies. You are not limited to a 20-hour of work. Of course, in Germany and similar countries, you are limited to this. But for example, in Czech Republic, in Italy and stuff, you can work full time as long as you are able to fulfill your academic requirement. And also here, I will give a specific example with the Czech Republic. Once you finish studies, you have free access to the job market. And what this means is that if you have any job contract, you can go to the immigration office with your certificate and they will offer you employment card. With this employment card, you can explore any job market that you want. You are not tied to a specific company where you can just work because they are sponsoring your visa. You can move from one company to another without having to worry about your visa. You just need to get a contract, go with your certificate, and then swap with whoever you are working with. And yeah, this is important thing to note. You are also not under any bond to leave the country after your studies, unless probably for specific scholarships. I came here with scholarship masters. I continue with PhD, and after my masters, I got my employment card, and I've been working alongside my PhD until I finish my PhD, and I still have a job, so I'm still here. No one is pushing me to leave the country. So these for me are very crucial when you are deciding whether to go North America or whether to go Europe. Ultimately, what you can do is that if Canada is your final destination of choice, but moving to there directly from Africa, from India, from Asia is very difficult. First, find an easy route to enter Europe, study, finish, and then maybe from Europe you can try again. Once you are out of Africa, the opportunity to travel wherever you want becomes very widened. So do not limit yourself. Some of you are still in your various countries for over 3-4 years just because you want to go to America and America has not been successful, and you are not looking at other alternative route to studying abroad. I have 2 friends. They are currently in Canada now. One finished bachelor's in UCC. He went to Turkey to do master's. He came to Czech Republic to do PhD. Within less than 4 years, he finished the PhD. He applied for 1-year study program in Canada. He went with the wife. They are there. I think by now he's finished his studies. They are working, living very comfortable. I'm sure if this person probably was trying to go through Canada from Ghana, it would have been a challenge, a very big challenge for him. The second one is also in Canada currently with the wife having a work visa and he having student visa for 1-year study program. They came to study masters in Czech Republic, and the guys applied for another master study in Canada. He got everything he needed and he left. So don't limit yourself. Sometimes some of you are looking in only one direction, and this kind of limit your ability to gain admission or to move outside of your country or to study abroad. Don't consider any opportunity to study abroad as less important. I have a friend who started from Korea government scholarship in Korea, and from Korea she is working in one of the top medical centers in Germany as a postdoc. She came to do the PhD in Germany, and now is doing postdoc in Germany. And this person can move around anywhere she wants to be. But if you have been presented with opportunity in China or Korea, you may think that that was something you couldn't afford to deal with. So please stay informed. If you have any question, put it in the comment section. I would attempt to answer them. And if you want to get help with evaluating your options of studying abroad and getting recommendations with which direction to go, you can reach us through our email, which I'm going to put in the description. It is edutrav360@gmail.com. edutrav360@gmail.com. You can reach us at any time. You can send your CVs, your transcripts, your certificates, and everything that is required for studying abroad. I will check it, and then I'll be able to advise you if it is important to do something else, or which destination will favor you the most. So stay tuned. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share our channel to other people who will need equal opportunity to stay informed. Until then, see you.